There are people who walk into your life with a warm smile, kind eyes, and words that make you feel strangely understood. Everything happens so fast that you begin to believe the universe just sent you someone special. But soon after, you find yourself exhausted, doubting your own feelings, and wondering when your heart became so heavy. The truth is, evil doesn't always arrive wearing an ugly face. It often wears a charming smile, speaks in a gentle tone, and listens so carefully that you forget you're being analyzed. A manipulator doesn't come to love you, they come to study you, to find the cracks they can slip through, turning your kindness into a tool that serves their purpose. Carl Jung once said, "The shadow of another only hurts us when it touches the shadow within ourselves." When you meet a toxic person, it's not just that they've entered your life, it's that their darkness is trying to speak to the darkness inside you. That's why some people give off an energy that feels both magnetic and unsettling from the very first moment. According to psychological studies, the average person wastes more than 4 years of their life in toxic relationships their intuition had already warned them about within the first 60 seconds. But instead of trusting that feeling, they rationalize it, justify it, and blind themselves to the signal their soul is sending. Because the soul knows. It always knows. In this video, I'll show you the 10 most subtle signs to recognize a toxic person the moment they step into your life. Signs your mind might miss, but your heart will always feel. Because when you learn to recognize darkness early, you no longer have to fight it later. Sign 1. The excessive validation trap. What makes us fall the easiest is not deceit, it's the feeling of being understood. Toxic people don't storm into our lives with cruelty. They step in with a sentence that makes us drop our guard. "Oh my God, I think exactly like you." Just one line and we relax. Because humans crave validation. Since childhood, we've learned that agreement means safety. So when a stranger instantly feels just like us, we call it fate. But true fate doesn't need to synchronize in 60 seconds, only strategy does. That's the trap of praise, the excessive validation trap. It's simple, but it works like psychological precision. Every nod, every "I get you" is a needle testing the depth of how easily you give away your trust. Carl Jung once said, "People become dangerous only when they are unaware of what they are doing." But manipulators know exactly what they are doing. They don't agree because they share your frequency, they agree to read it, then replicate it. They don't want to know what you think, they want to know what you need to hear to believe them. So you speak, they listen, you open up, they nod, you exhale, they smile, and you mistake mirroring for understanding. But try disagreeing once. Say something that challenges them. In that moment, the air changes. Their eyes dim, their voice turns colder, their lips still smile, but the soul behind them is gone. You've just touched the limit of their empathy. Because they never wanted you, they wanted the version of you that's easy to manipulate, the one who always smiles, always says yes, always believes there's something special between you. That's not connection, it's an unspoken contract. You give me your trust, I'll give you the illusion of being understood. The world is full of intelligent people who still fall into this trap, not because they're foolish, but because they're lonely. For a fleeting moment, when someone mirrors their reflection back, they feel like they can breathe again. And that's when they lose the ability to see through. Remember this. No one truly understands you in 60 seconds unless they're trying to. If someone agrees with everything you say, never hesitates, never offers their own perspective, they're not connecting, they're preparing to control. And when you realize this, don't argue, don't expose them. Just step back. Silence is the one test a manipulator cannot pass, because they only exist through your reactions. Once they've made you believe they're the only one who truly understands you, their next move will be to discredit everyone who might show you the truth. They won't forbid you from trusting others, they'll just plant a tiny seed of doubt, and that's when the darkness begins to spread. Sign 2. Preemptive character assassination. Once the manipulator convinces you that they understand you, their next step is to make you doubt everyone else. They don't forbid your connections, nor do they appear controlling. They simply drop lines that sound like care. She's lovely, but a bit unpredictable. Or, he's a good guy, he just doesn't really get you. A soft but, gently placed, not enough to offend, just enough to plant a crack. And because you trust them, you don't recognize it as poison, you think it's a warning. You start to see others through their lens, become cautious, pull away until slowly you stop hearing anyone else but them. This is a classic strategy of those who crave control without appearing controlling. By discrediting others in your mind before they even have a chance, they shrink your world. Every perspective, every piece of information must now pass through them before reaching you. And once they become your sole point of reference, they gain the power to define your reality: who's good, who's bad, who's trustworthy, who's not. You no longer choose, you just react within their framework. Carl Jung once wrote, "Darkness seeks to enter through those we trust the most." This is exactly how it happens, not through violence, but through friendliness. Manipulators know that once you doubt those closest to you, you'll depend on them more. Isolation doesn't happen in locked rooms, it happens in the mind. You isolate yourself, believing they're the only one who truly cares. Pay attention. Genuine people never speak ill of others during a first meeting. They don't need to tear others down to seem trustworthy. They let you observe and experience on your own. Manipulators can't afford that, because if you see other perspectives, you'll see through their mask. So they rush to preemptively poison the well, discrediting relationships before they even form. The brilliance of their tactic lies in how safe it feels. They tell you they're just protecting you, that the world isn't kind, that everyone has an agenda. And when you believe them, you start building walls around yourself. But those walls don't protect you, they imprison you. And they stand inside as the only voice left. Toxic people don't always use force. They use trust. They don't need to take it, they just need to make you hand it over. The only way out is to ask yourself, who helps you connect wider, and who makes you shrink smaller? Who helps you see the world clearly, and who convinces you that only they are safe? The answers will tell you who's real and who's not. Sign Tiga, testing boundaries immediately. Once they've made you believe they're genuine and that they understand you, their next move is always the same: to test how easily you can be led. They don't do it overtly. It starts small, a slightly disrespectful joke, a question that's too personal too soon, or a light touch on your arm. Each act is disguised as friendliness, warmth, or natural chemistry. But in truth, they're observing your reaction. If you brush it off, laugh nervously, or pretend to be fine so you won't seem too uptight, they instantly get a green light. Okay, I can push a little further. That's how they gauge how quiet you'll stay in the face of intrusion. And once you allow it once, it won't stop. The next time, it's subtler, bolder, until your boundaries blur completely. You'll notice they like to tease in ways that make you uncomfortable. Sometimes they'll say something that stings, then laugh it off. Relax, I was just joking. When you react, they make you feel like you're too sensitive. And slowly, you start doubting your own discomfort, which is exactly what they want. Once you stop trusting your feelings, they can cross any line without you even being sure it's wrong. Manipulators rarely cross boundaries loudly. They do it quietly through friendliness, eye contact, half-joking comments. And every time you don't react, they grow more confident that they've got you. Psychologists call this boundary testing. It's how they measure how much pressure it takes before you push back. Normal people don't need to test like that. People who respect you naturally maintain healthy distance. They don't pry too soon, touch without consent, or joke about things they don't yet understand. But toxic people treat it like a game. They want to know how easily your emotions can be guided, how long before you compromise just to keep the peace. If you want to spot them early, pay attention to the first feeling in your body. Your body always knows what your mind tries to rationalize. If something feels off, if a quiet voice inside says something's wrong, trust it. Don't excuse it. Don't give them another chance to prove you wrong. A truly kind person never makes you question your own sense of respect. Toxic people will do everything they can to convince you that saying no is rude, that you should lighten up, that everyone's just friendly like that. Don't believe it. Every justification for crossing your boundaries is a tool for pushing them further. You don't owe anyone an apology for feeling uncomfortable. You just need to stand firm, clear, and protect your space. Boundaries aren't coldness, they're self-respect. Real people honor them. Manipulators try to break them, and the way you respond the first time determines the entire story that follows. Sign 4. The strategic victim narrative. Once they've crossed your boundaries and confirmed that you're compassionate, their next move is to tell a story of pain not to share, but to test how deep your empathy runs and how easily it can be used. They'll tell you about a cheating ex, a cruel coworker, or a family that never understood them. Every story has two elements. They were hurt and they rose above it. They are both the victim and the hero. They speak with just enough sadness, with distant eyes and a faint smile, as if to say, "I'm strong, but I've been through so much." If you have a sensitive heart, you'll immediately want to comfort them. You'll see pieces of your own pain in theirs. You'll feel compassion, then belief, then the urge to heal them. And that's exactly what they want. Manipulators are skilled energy readers. They sense who opens their heart easily, who forgives instead of leaves. They don't control you through force, they control you through pity. By making you believe they're a good person who's been hurt, they get you to excuse disrespectful behavior because you don't want to hurt them more. This is an emotional debt you never realized you signed. Every time you try to set a boundary, they remind you, "You know what I've been through." One sentence and your anger dissolves. Bit by bit, they build a perfect defense system. Anytime you resist, they play the victim and take back control. They'll talk about all the people who betrayed or misunderstood them. At first, you believe it. You think you're different, the one who won't disappoint them. But soon you see the pattern. Every person in their past turned into the villain of their story. And if you stay long enough, you'll become one too. Carl Jung once said, "What we do not face within ourselves will appear in our lives as fate." Manipulators can't face their own flaws, so they must cast someone else as the guilty one to feel innocent. They live by replaying pain, because pain keeps them at the center. They need suffering to exist and someone else to play the savior. The sign is clear. If you meet someone and within minutes they tell tragic stories smoothly, in great detail, yet without genuine emotional depth, it's not vulnerability, it's a test. Genuine people share their past only when there's real trust. Manipulators share early to plant emotion, to control your compassion. Watch how they tell their story. If every tale ends with, "I did my best, no one understood me," or "I just need someone real," you're listening to an old script performed for a new audience, and they're hoping you'll sing harmony in their song. Sign 5. The spotlight shift. If the first 4 signs are how they build the trap, this one is how they claim the stage. Once you trust them, once they have your attention, something strange begins. Every story, no matter who starts it, ends up about them. At first, you don't notice. You share a small moment from your day, and they reply, "Oh, that reminds me of when I..." Then launch into a 10-minute story. You share your joy, and they pivot the conversation to something they did that was even bigger. You speak, they interrupt. You feel something, they change the topic. Every time you shine, they steal back the light. They can't stand not being the center. In group settings, if someone else is getting attention, they'll jump in with a dramatic story or a joke that grabs the room. If it fails, they'll sulk, acting distant, until you ask, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, just tired." And just like that, the conversation shifts back to them. This isn't ordinary selfishness, it's survival. Toxic people live off attention the way lungs live off air. To them, visibility isn't pleasure, it's oxygen. When they're not being admired, they feel invisible. And when they feel invisible, they'll destroy anything that makes them feel that way. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Manipulators can't face their darkness, so they feed on others' light to see themselves. And that light is your attention. Every time you listen, comfort, or reassure, you're fueling their ego. They need you as a mirror to confirm they still matter. You can spot this easily if you pay attention. When you talk, do they really listen or are they just waiting for their turn? When you share joy, do they celebrate you or turn it into a story about themselves? When you fall silent, can they sit with you or do they fidget because they can't stand the void? Healthy people share space. They're not threatened when others shine because they don't see light as something that can be stolen. Toxic people only know two states, being admired or being threatened. So they keep taking the spotlight through words or emotions. If you're happy, they become sad. If you succeed, they'll find a way to shrink your joy. When you meet someone and every conversation somehow circles back to them, step back and observe. Their initial charm was just the key to get you to open the door. Inside, there's no connection, only a desperate need to be seen. They don't truly see you, they only see themselves reflected in your eyes. Sign 6. Forced teaming, the manufactured alliance. If in the previous sign they grab the spotlight, in this one they start pulling you into their light with a lovely but dangerous word, we. Manipulators know a simple psychological law. People trust those who make them feel on the same team. So they waste no time forging a fake emotional alliance. Early on, you'll hear lines like, people like us are rare. We see things differently from others. Only we truly notice that. And familiar, right? Who doesn't like being part of something special? But that very feeling of being special is the weak spot they exploit. By saying we, they make you forget you're a separate person. You begin to feel responsible for the bond even though it's built on illusion. Carl Jung once said, when two personalities meet, an interaction occurs and both are transformed. But manipulators don't want interaction, they want assimilation. They don't want two people, they want a single we in which you gradually disappear. To get there, they use forced teaming, creating premature closeness to fast-track trust. You'll notice they talk about private things as if you've known each other for years. They draw you into secrets to make it feel like you, and they share something others don't. It's a kind of silent vow, tricking you into feeling an invisible loyalty. Example. You've known them a few days and they say, I don't usually tell anyone this, but I feel I can trust you. It sounds like praise, but it's really a lock. Once you accept the privilege of being trusted, you'll try to live up to it. You won't want to disappoint them. You start carrying their emotional burden. When they say we, they're building walls around you. You stop seeing the world as me and others and start seeing us versus everyone else. From there, outsiders look like threats. Anyone who questions the relationship is labeled jealous, clueless, or not on our wavelength. You think you're in a deep connection, but you're actually being sealed inside a two-person bubble where power tilts in their favor. This mechanism is subtle because it doesn't create pressure. It creates attachment. You aren't forced, you volunteer. You feel chosen, and that's exactly what makes it hard to leave. Once you believe what you have is rare, you'll sacrifice yourself to protect it, even as it drains you. The clearest marker of forced teaming is speed. Genuine people let connection grow. They're not in a hurry. They know real trust needs shared experience, not slogans. Toxic people burn stages. They want you bound before you've had time to really observe them. If someone keeps stressing we, people like us, don't let others come between us, hit pause. That special feeling may be a crafted illusion so you forget you're still a separate self. And once you surrender that separateness, they won't need to persuade you anymore. You'll stand with them even when they're wrong. Sign 7. The disproportionate reaction overreacting to small disagreements. This is where the mask starts to crack. When mirroring, praise, fake intimacy, and we no longer hold the illusion together, they reveal what they've been hiding, how they truly handle difference. Toxic people can't stand being contradicted. They don't see disagreement as part of being human, but as a threat to their identity. Say one thing that isn't full agreement. Express one independent view and the air changes. You'll feel it before you name it. Their voice drops or spikes, their eyes go cold, and an invisible distance opens up. A normal conversation becomes a courtroom where they must win. If they can't win with logic, they'll win with emotion. They sigh, go silent, withdraw their energy, making you feel guilty, wondering, did I say something wrong? That's the moment they take back control. When you start self-censoring, choosing your words just to avoid upsetting them, you've stepped into their invisible cage. Notice, the highly skilled manipulators don't explode outright. Public anger costs them power. Instead, they choose calculated coldness and distance. They'll go suddenly silent mid-conversation or say, I guess you don't understand me like I thought. Then leave you to twist in self-doubt. Jung said, anyone who does not face his own darkness will project it onto others. Toxic people do this constantly. Your disagreement touches the shadow they avoid. Rather than self-reflect, they throw it at you. Suddenly you are too sensitive, overreacting, untrusting, and they, the angry one, become the hurt one. You find yourself making peace without knowing your crime. You apologize not because you were wrong, but because you fear losing their pleasant version. And that's when they know they've won. One of the most dangerous traits here is the repeating cycle. Tension, cold, withdrawal, soothing. After making you feel at fault, they return soft and sweet, maybe even sorry for overreacting. But the apology isn't to repair. It's to re-establish dominance. Each round teaches you a false lesson. If you want peace, you must shrink. The truth. Healthy people can disagree without harm. They listen, respond, and stay calm. Toxic people can't. Disagreement threatens their ego, and that ego can't withstand reality. They need your compliance to keep their illusion alive. Sign 8. The comparative complement prays with a hidden blade. Once they've mapped your boundaries and learned to make you yield through emotion, they reach for a subtler weapon. Compliments not the kind that makes you secure, but the kind that makes you feel more special than others. They'll say, you're nothing like the people I've met before. You're way smarter than my friends. What a relief to finally meet someone who gets me not like them. Sweet, right? Who doesn't like being the exception? But note, there's always an implied comparison. They aren't praising you. They're praising you against others, quietly planting division. They're teaching you a rule. You're valued only when you're better than someone else. Believe that rule, and you'll start playing their game, the invisible competition. Jung said, where there is comparison, there is shadow. These compliments feed that shadow. They pull you into a game where they set the rules. Today you're smarter than the rest. Tomorrow someone else is calmer than you. Suddenly you're chasing conditional approval, something they can grant and revoke at will. Pay attention to how you feel after the compliment. Genuine praise leaves you peaceful. A manipulator's praise leaves you excited and uneasy. You're lifted up, but with one more sentence, you feel you must perform to keep that special status. That's how they control you with conditional validation. In relationships like this, you'll notice they don't praise anyone purely. Every compliment has a purpose, a double edge. When they praise you, they're teaching you how they see the world, only better and worse, never equal. And soon, you'll be compared to, because the person who belittles others to you will eventually belittle you to others. A sincere compliment doesn't pull someone down to lift you up. Toxic people can't do that because they don't know how to stand tall without stepping on someone else. They only feel strong when someone else is made small. If someone praises you while always slipping in a comparison, be cautious. Don't let the specialness they hand you blind you. Today you're different from the rest. Tomorrow, to someone else, you'll be just like everyone. End Doer's quote. When you're praised, notice, does it leave you calm or does it make you strive to deserve it? If it's the latter, it isn't praise. It's a leash into their power game. Sign 9. The joy thief. After they've built attachment, measured your limits, made you chase their approval and strive to be worthy in their eyes, the next phase begins. They steal your joy. Not with violence or open criticism, but with frighteningly subtle tactics. They make you feel you shouldn't be happy. At first, it's tiny. You share something good, a chance, an achievement, a small delight, and instead of sharing your joy, they respond with a soft silence or a remark that drops the mood. Yeah, That's nice, but will it really last? Or, it's fine, but others have done far more. One sentence, and your excitement fades. That's exactly the aim. Dim your light. Because every time you're happy, you radiate energy, and that light makes them feel small. Toxic people can't stand you shining without them at the center. If you succeed, they must remind you of something they did. If you get attention, they'll tell a story of when they were even more impressive. If you're content, they'll see doubt. Aren't you being a bit naive? The world isn't that simple. Carl Jung once wrote, "No one falls under the sway of evil unless they envy the light." Manipulators envy joy because it's the one thing they cannot convincingly fake. They can perform pain, remorse, even love, but they cannot counterfeit inner ease. So when they sense your genuine peace, they panic. They must fracture it just a little to feel balanced again. You'll notice it most when you have good news. They never respond cleanly. If they congratulate you, the blessing carries a hidden barb. Good, but don't trust people too much. I'm happy for you. Let's hope this one doesn't fall apart. I achieved that once too. It gets old. Different words, same effect. They siphon your energy. Healthy people smile with you, and you can feel that warmth spread. Toxic people smile, but their eyes are dim. The emotion doesn't match. It's a mask for image maintenance, covering a vague irritation you'll sense if you're attentive. Time with them makes you unfamiliar to yourself. You laugh less. You hesitate to share good news. You start feeling guilty for being happy. You fear hurting them when you're okay. That's when you know they've captured your software. They don't need to block you. You self-limit to keep the peace. This is one of the most dangerous forms of control, making you afraid to feel joy. Without joy, you lose sight of the exit. They don't need to lock the door. You'll stay in a room of your own quietness and restraint. So watch the people around you. When you share something good, what do? Do they genuinely smile or change the subject? Do they celebrate you or redirect to themselves? Do you feel lighter or do you lower your voice so you're not showing off? Someone who truly loves you is happy when you're happy. A toxic person loses balance when you're joyful because they only feel calm when you shrink. Sign 10. The mask slip. This is the moment they cannot fake, no matter how skilled the performance. All the compliments, smiles, victim tales, and counterfeit intimacy eventually drain their energy. And when they think no one is watching, the real face surfaces. It usually isn't in big scenes, but in small, fleeting moments, seconds when they believe you or others aren't paying attention. Like the way they speak to a server, the eyes suddenly sharp, the voice turning commanding. Or the instant they're denied something, a brief tightening of the brow, a smile twisting into contempt. Or simply, in a quiet pause, you glimpse a strange emptiness behind their eyes. No light, no warmth, just the cold of ego. That's the instant the mask falls. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Jung said, "We wear masks to live with the world, but the more perfect the mask, the larger the shadow." Toxic people live in perpetual performance, maintaining the image of good person, wise soul, wounded victim. But no one can hold a role forever. Sooner or later, their body, voice, and eyes betray them. Masks are heavy, and every burden tires the bearer. Notice how they treat those they deem beneath them, staff, drivers, service workers. How they act toward people who can offer them nothing is the truest mirror of their character. When there's no need to perform, there's no reason to hide. At first, with you, they're gracious, polished, refined. Watch longer, and you'll catch the sigh of annoyance, the eye roll at someone speaking, the half-sarcastic, half-serious jab. It's brief. Then they slip back into perfection. But you've seen it, and that's the truth. They aren't kind, they're convincing. The closer you get, the wider the gap between words and actions becomes. They may preach compassion, yet turn cold in others' need. They may sermonize about empathy, yet never truly apologize. They may praise honesty, yet can't bear scrutiny. They live a paradox, craving love for their image, not for their truth. You'll see them switch tones, attitudes, even identities like outfits. In front of those they want, they're exquisite. In front of those they disdain, they're coarse and cutting. The more you observe, the clearer it is. Each persona is designed to achieve a purpose, not to connect. This sign matters most because it's the final reality check. The first 9 can raise suspicion, but when the mask drops, no one can fake character when they think no one's looking. A genuine person is the same across contexts. A toxic person is a collection of versions, each engineered to survive in someone else's eyes. They don't have a stable self, only roles that extract admiration or pity. When you witness the mask slip, don't rationalize, don't excuse it. Don't tell yourself, everyone has bad moments. This isn't a bad moment, it's the hidden part they conceal. The terror isn't that it appears, it's that they'll put the mask back on as if nothing happened, and smile at you like you saw nothing at all. In the end, what matters isn't that you remember all 10 signs, it's that you begin to see differently. Because toxic people don't enter our lives wearing the face of a villain, they come as a friend, a lover, the one who understands you best. They make you believe in a story of something rare, and because you believe, you become blind. But truth doesn't strike like lightning. It arrives slowly through that vague feeling that something isn't right. A cold glance, a strange compliment, a silence that makes you doubt yourself. That's when intuition speaks, and if you're brave enough to pause, to look, to stop rationalizing, you're already free. Carl Jung once said, "No one can see the light until they have walked through the darkness." The toxic people in our lives, after all, are mirrors exposing the shadows we never wanted to face, the hunger to be understood, the fear of abandonment, the craving for validation. Once we see those parts clearly, they no longer control us. The most beautiful thing isn't that you learn to avoid such people, it's that you become someone they can no longer manipulate. When you know your boundaries, they can't test them. When you no longer need validation, they can't use praise to steer you. When you stop reacting, they can't stage their drama. And when you realize you don't need to prove anything only to know the entire game ends, don't regret having believed. Belief is the instinct of a pure heart. But from this day on, know that you can believe without blindness, trust without losing your self-love, while keeping your boundaries intact.